All right, so I'll kick this off with this, and then we can do some more Q&A today. I'm really curious for your guys' feedback on the end of this too, but in the wake of, us launching automation library and making the snapshots more modular, we've been, trying to put together our process for doing onboardings for that and all of that kind of stuff for the automation library products. And so we've been able to have a few calls with folks, that have just purchased or upgraded, and we've been letting just a few folks in at a time, just so we can improve the onboarding system and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the questions or things that it seems like people are bringing up is I'm going to do my best to articulate this here, but because everything is so modular now, with our ultimate snapshots, we used to just give it to everybody in one huge chunk. And that kind of came with like a positive and a negative, The positive was, I think, that folks got that huge snapshot and they're like, cool, this is all I need. I'm just going to give this to my clients and like everything should be in there, and everything is in there, The problem is, and this is one of the downsides, is then clients a lot of times get confused because they're like, there's a lot in here, what am I supposed to use? And then they use like 10% of it, when they're afraid to touch it also, and the agency's afraid to touch it. And so the idea was, to deliver it in smaller pieces so that everybody kind of knew like what those pieces were doing. But then one of the things that got revealed to me is what seemed to be kind of like a lack of clarity on what people are actually offering. So this is kind of like exposing to me a little bit that maybe, we get agencies coming in all sort of different places on their own growth cycle. So there's always like more established agencies, they know exactly what they're offering, And then there's newer agencies and they're kind of like, yeah, I don't really exactly know what I'm doing for clients yet. I'm just trying to get clients, and we'll figure out what I'm doing for them when we get them, and that's kind of more their mentality. And then there's people everywhere in between. So in the spirit of kind of like trying to help people, at least with the mental model that we're using for product development, it's kind of like the mental model I filter everything through that we build. And I figured I would just share that with you guys. Maybe you guys will find it valuable as well. And maybe hopefully it'll help you sort of with your own offers and mapping kind of snapshot functionality to different client accounts. And it's something, if you're in the agency space, you would have seen something very similar to this before. This is just one that I've kind of slightly customized for myself. But let me know if you guys can see my screen.
We can see it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So on this mental model for myself, I have 8 stages, or kind of like 8 stages in the SaaS agency value lifecycle. Sometimes people have more than 8 stages. I've seen people have as much as 10. Sometimes people have less and they try to really condense it down to like 4 stages. But for me, it's helpful to visually be able to see all of these stages. And I don't see this type of setup very often either, which we call this sort of like an hourglass diagram. And the idea with an hourglass diagram is that, your squeeze point is basically kind of like right here in the middle. And so if you think about it from sort of a marketing perspective, so we have like awareness on the very top. And so these would be, like any activities that agencies are offering. It could be on the product side or service side to help people create an awareness net, so that could be like organic, social, paid advertising on the just kind of on the awareness side. So not necessarily conversion advertising, just awareness advertising or anything like that. It could also be trying to increase like a GMB footprint. It could be SEO, but typically like SEO would fall more sort of into the consideration stage. Awareness stage is sort of, just casting as wide of a net as you can versus kind of like intent marketing, like such as search, Google search, GMB search, falls somewhere in the consideration or intention. But anyway, the idea here obviously is, on the top side, you have awareness, then you get down to consideration. So these are people that are hitting retargeting ads or seeing something from you for the second time, like going back and watching a second video, a third video, and starting to sort of like swim into your net a little bit. And then the idea with intention is this is kind of the stage in the growth cycle where you're getting people reaching out, asking you sales questions, having some interest, expressing that they might be on like the sidelines of buying or getting engaged. And then obviously conversion is the sale itself. It's not necessarily always a sale, it could be, let's say you have a product out there, but whatever that is, it's like they've made the plunge and they're now engaged with your thing and committed to doing whatever it is. So then you kind of have your squeeze point, and that's where you have that opportunity to deliver whatever it was that you promised that you would give to them, like during the sales cycle. And then obviously you go down to retention, and this is just going to be basic, like follow-up, checking in with people. Hey, how'd you like our product? Did we do a good job? What could we have done better? And keeping like the feedback loop open with them over time. And then we get down to expansion, and this is typically like cross promotion, order bumps, OTOs, anything like that, where it's like, okay, they bought our flashlight. Now we're going to see if they want a case. We're going to see if they want a belt. We're going to try to see like how deep in the product ecosystem we can get them. Like they trust us more. So we're going to expand a little bit. And then obviously at the bottom is advocacy, which is like affiliate relationships, them telling everybody about you. Extendly has a few of those folks in the community, they're in the high level group. Like every time they get a chance, they're like, oh, buy an Extendly product, and that's typically without even, offering them anything. So that's like kind of the stage, everybody obviously hopes that their customers get to. So this is kind of like my mental map that everything goes through, because it doesn't really matter what we're building, and it doesn't really matter what niche we're building it for. It's kind of like always going to be this. And so it's been interesting because as I've been having calls with people that get the stack of automation library products, I've had to get into mapping sessions with a few people, because I'm like, well, what is it that you're selling? Because they're like, what modules should I use? And I'm like, well, what's your sales flow? What are you trying to accomplish for the customers? And they're like, well, we kind of do a little bit of this, and like sometimes we do this, and like other times we do this, that's totally cool. But like the agencies and the SaaS agencies I've seen that have this really dialed in, where like I've seen some guys where it's like they're totally in the awareness game. That's their X factor, and that's the game that they bring to their clients. And like, not that they can't offer them other like snapshots or services like somewhere else in the customer lifecycle. I mean, hopefully eventually as an agency you become completely vertically integrated and you can offer all of these things. But I've seen people go for like complete vertical saturation, oftentimes way too early, before they have any of these things completely locked down. And so then they're just not competitive, because there's someone else out there that's better at awareness, better at consideration and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping, I don't know if we'll do for automation library, maybe we'll put some training assets out and stuff that help people with this. But for example, we're going to be releasing the Quick Start 2.0 here pretty soon. And that'll be the snapshot that we're giving away for free. And, so predominantly the two features that we're focused on in the Quick Start are database reactivation and missed call text back. And the reason for that is because typically for like a brand new agency, playing in the awareness and consideration game is pretty hard. There's a lot of stuff in there that they have to figure out. And a lot of times, often in the beginning, they're not that successful. It's a lot easier to get quick wins working with organizations that already have traffic, but they, have a lot of dormant customers, for example. So that's where database reactivation comes in. You can drum up a lot of business practically overnight, with database reactivation if they already have traffic. same thing with missed call text back. It's a problem that, normally, like I was just remembering, it was probably like 4 or 5 months ago now, but one of our drains at my house clogged up. Then I was like, man, I think my house is going to flood, if I don't get this figured out. So I'm trying to call plumbers. And to my surprise, I called like 10 of them and like 6 of them didn't even answer the phone. And then, like a number of them later on that week, it was like 3 or 4 days later, probably 3 or 4 of them called me back. I was like, I've already found somebody. It's like 4 days later, especially with plumbing. It's like you're calling a plumber if it's an emergency. Normally, it's not like you're trying to schedule your plumbing out 3 weeks in advance, So it's stuff like that where it's like plumbers already literally have people calling in wanting help. They're sitting on the conversion sidelines. They just need delivery, but they literally just can't pass the barrier. And so that's, again, like a really easy, quick win. So, the hope with the quick start is like giving an agency, a brand new agency, like 2 tools like that. I mean, if you can't go out and sell those 2 tools, you really have no business trying to overcomplicate it with other things, is our perspective. So anyway, I guess that's it. I guess that's my spiel for this, but let me know what you guys think, and we can get in the Q&A too. So
we should like put this in a pipeline, right? Just turn it sideways and put it in a pipeline inside of the pipeline part of Go High Level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, sometimes people divide up pipelines across these life cycles a little different. Like, for example, a lot of times folks will have this entire top half on one pipeline, and then they might have these bottom 4 on separate, like 4 separate pipelines, where they have one pipeline to like manage the delivery process, one pipeline to manage retention and follow up, like one pipeline to manage expansion, like affiliate relationships, all that type of stuff. So, and then sometimes people will condense like the bottom part down into a few pipelines. I mean, technically speaking, if you wanted to be really, really granular, like every single one of these things has a very clear objective that could enable it to have its own pipeline. Since pipelines are objective based, everybody should be either won, lost, or abandoned on a pipeline. And so, but for example, like going from awareness to consideration, that it's harder to resolve somebody on an awareness pipeline unless you have like really good integration with high level and ad platforms, because most of that is going to happen like off of the high level platform, unless somebody just happens to like text you or call in or something like that. But like if for you to trigger on like a reactivation, or not a reactivation, like a re-engagement on a retargeting ad or something, you could pass that data in the high level and move them over to another pipeline, but sometimes also people won't even bring it into high level until like the intention threshold, because that's really where people start like messaging in and all that kind of stuff. And so technically awareness and a consideration like are being tracked, but off the high level platform, and then they kind of enter the high level ecosystem, like at which point in time they have intent. So that's another way of kind of doing it. But
on the modulars that you're going to be releasing, we were messaging back and forth. Were you able to send me that code?
Yeah, you should have got a code. Did you get a code?
I don't think I got it. I'll have to check again. Was it on email or?
Yeah, it would have been on email. Check your spam folder too, just in case, sometimes in high level. But if you didn't get it, let me know and I'll just like text it over to you or something.
Zach, how far away are you from giving the library out to existing small business snapshot owners. And I saw various communications from you and Beyond. Beyond saying a couple of days, and you a week later going, not ready yet.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, I think we're going to let another small batch in, like later tonight or early tomorrow morning. So if you want to be in that group, I'm happy to put you in there. We're letting, anywhere between like 5 and 10 through at a time right now. And then every single time that we've let some folks through, we've kind of realized, okay, we need to refine it again. And so, it's the whole list releases got bumped back a couple times when we've spotted some confusion. So, in answer to your question, I'm not exactly sure when we'll hit the whole list. I'm hoping really soon. In the back of my mind, I have kind of like later this week. Even when we're ready, we're still going to do an incremental rollout and blast 15 or 20 people a day. And then just let that roll out until everybody's done.
That's right. Don't do that to your support team. And so then I have an additional question on the Quick Start or the Quick Start 2.0. Is it a true subset of what's in the, just in terms of database activation and missed call text back? Is that a true subset of the automation library and or the small business snapshot?
Yeah. So, and this is another reason why I've been holding back the small business snapshot total update here for a couple weeks, is because we have about 80% coverage on all the modules that were in the small business snapshot 1.0. So we don't have full coverage yet. And one of the ones that isn't in the automation library yet is the database reactivation one.
Right.
And so for anybody that's already got the update, like we'll send them an email with that module as soon as it comes out. But that's also the blocker for the quick start. And so that one is going to be, well, all of them have been updated from the small business snapshot, but that one in particular, we're using AI. We're using the chat GPT action and the workflows to help people generate database reactivation language. And so that one's going to be pretty cool. And I'm excited for that one. And so it might shake out to where, like if I let you into the small business thing tonight, tomorrow morning, the database reactivation is not going to be in there yet, but as soon as it is, we'll send that out to you. And then we'll, the other thing in the quick start is we have another module that we're including in there that is going to be just specific to the quick start. And basically we're going to take kind of a lightweight, we have a lightweight SaaS landing page in there that's designed to sell missed call text back and database reactivation that anybody can use.
Right.
And then just a checkout page so they can actually sign people up for their SaaS, and one calendar and associated calendar automations. And so it's supposed to be kind of like a super lightweight version of the SaaS agency.
Yep. Basically get agency and the client quick start piece. Good to go. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Hopefully it's just like a nice little package, that people can, I mean, the whole objective is like they go out and get a few clients, and then they obviously want and need more snapshot stuff after that, but we got to get them those quick client wins, else they won't have money.
And I'm more interested in the automation library. I've stopped deploying the small business snapshot just because it's unknown. It's a 1.0, and not only that, it is overwhelming. And there's a couple of clients that have just signed up. They only really need a part of it, so I'm just kind of holding off and waiting for the application library to come.
That makes sense. I've had like a bunch of people messaging me about the update and stuff, and so I kind of, it's been a little difficult sometimes to remember who I've even like talked to and all that. Would you mind
Easy.
You can either message me on Facebook or you can send me an email too. But if you do either one of those things, I'll put you on my note list
On a
for
short list. I appreciate it. Thank you.
cool. All right, I'll stop
Just say
sharing.
email Zach, ZACH at GetExtended.
Yep. That's it. So we can just open it up to anything right now. You were talking about some UTM stuff, Heidi.
Yeah. Do you
Start
have,
that.
because I was setting up some forms and I want to be able to send forms back and forth and not have each person have to recreate it, but I'm just missing a piece. I've got the I know Stephanie, sent I already had the code part, but I'm just not sure about the rest of it.
All right. I guess, do you want to share your screen and show me what you're
I
looking
don't have
at?
anything up here. Sorry, I didn't come prepared.
No, it's all good.
But it's basically using it on forms. So if I were to make a form, and I guess I'm just missing a piece. I went through a bunch of tutorials and I'm just missing a piece.
Are you using like a UTM builder of some kind?
No, not really. I mean, I'm familiar with the code, and right now I just want to be able to populate just the basic stuff, the client's name, number, email. For right now, it's not going to be used for marketing necessarily, just for forms internally to be able to send the forms out and have it automatically populate the
Oh, okay.
info.
So you want help with the query parameters. Just for clarity, so you're not talking about like a UTM link for Google Analytics.
No.
Okay.
I'll do that next. Right now, I'm just sticking with the internal forms that are being sent back and forth for like different approvals, and then
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me show you what the query parameters look like. 1 second. All right, I'll share my screen. You guys see it okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, the first thing is and I'm sure Stephanie already mentioned this stuff, so I'm just kind of like reviewing this for everyone else. But to get the query parameters to populate, to be able to call the query parameters from the browser cookies, you need to use a trigger link. And so for anybody who's wondering what she's talking about, basically, when you have clients, when you use a trigger link in HighLevel and somebody clicks on that link, HighLevel has an awareness of the contact information of the person clicking on the trigger link. So it's like whoever's going through the workflow. So you have information on them, like their first name, their last name, their phone number, their email, all that kind of stuff. And so you can pass that information through the link parameters into the form, into a HighLevel form, so that they don't have to fill out that information again. So this is something we've been doing in our snapshots for all you. If you have the small business snapshot, you would have seen this in the status update forms. And so this is our refund status update form. And so basically, just to explain what you're looking at here, this custom value, and so this is a trigger link and this is the URL. So we're building the URL parameters here. So this is a custom value that contains the domain of the funnel step where the refund status update form lives. And so if you think about, this is going to populate that domain. And then with everything past the question mark here is us saying, question mark means like, okay, we want to pass in some additional information from the trigger link to the form. So we're going to pass in the first name, and then we have to tell high level, well, okay, so first name on the form is what system field? So it's the contact first name system field. Then last name equals the last name system field. And this question mark comes like before you start this like string, but then you'll notice after that, as you're building the rest of the parameters, you just have like an ampersand between each value. And so we start with first name, contact first name, ampersand last name equals system field contact last name. Then we have email and phone. And so basically this has to match up with the form's field value. And then this just has to be whatever system field you want to populate into that field value. Does that make sense, Heidi?
Yes, but I guess the piece that I'm missing is, so I don't need to actually put the UTM. I don't need to put that wording. I just put this. And I have to have that, like if the client fills out an individual form and then signs up for something, what we're doing internally is now sending it and approving it or not approving it. And so I want to have other forms that are having the same thing for that client follow, internally. And I don't know, number one, I'm not sure, like here on the very beginning, where to put that link. I have all the end part. That's exactly what I have for the end part. But
you have to, if you want it to use it internally, all you have to do is add the trigger link to an internal message in the workflow.
Show me that. That's what I'm getting goofed up on.
Okay. Let me do this one.
So it's all based on the workflow, not the funnel. Because I have to put that in the URL of the funnel, correct? That last part?
Well, yeah, you do have to populate. You either need to put the funnel URL in here directly and not, inside of a custom value, or you have to populate the custom value with that URL. Because everything after the question mark is stuff that you are going to be adding to the form, but what comes before the question mark is where they're actually going to go when they click on that link.
Would it be the actual form? Yeah, I guess I'm getting goofed up. Is it the actual form? Is the actual funnel? So yeah, if you can show me that part.
Yeah, it's the funnel. So, So client meeting status update. So for example, like on this one, so if we go to sites, then we have our appointment status update. And so here's our client meeting sales. That's our status update funnel, which contains the form. So this URL goes into the custom value for client meeting status update, not the trigger link one, the web URL one, this one. And so all we do is go here, copy the actual domain of the funnel once it's live. There isn't an actual domain mapped in this account, which is why it's just app.gohighlevel. So you would actually want, your real domain in there. But then once you populate this custom value, then that custom value, this one that's being referenced in the trigger link, will then pull this value, into that custom value. And so when it comes to the workflows, though, when you're sending out that to your internal team, so I go down a little bit here. So link to update client status, meaning update. And so this is where things get like a little bit meta in our snapshots, but we have a custom value in here, but that custom value just contains the trigger link key And so like it's essentially this trigger link right here. So this trigger link is embedded inside of this custom value. So when we hit this custom value, it's really hitting this trigger link, which is hitting that URL string that we just looked at a second ago.
And why do you do that?
We do that because trigger link keys, like everything right here, change. They're unique for every sub account. And so basically, like if we put the trigger links directly in messages like this, then during the onboarding phase, we have to go in with somebody, or we have to tell you basically go into this message, go into that message, go into this message, go into that message, and chain and like add all your unique trigger links. Whereas if we put them in a custom value, then all we have to do is tell someone, go get your trigger link key, put it into the custom value, and then it's in all the messages that it needs to be in.
Gotcha.
And where is that code going? Is it's not going in the custom value at all? You know, the question mark name equals, and then the squiggly stuff.
So it's like here, let me show you. Sometimes this helps me. Let me know if this helps you, but I'll do a drawing for you. We'll just loading up Miro 1 second. And Miro is loading slow.
When I was searching for it, so I was using UTM, so I shouldn't use UTM because I don't even have to put the UTM. I'm just putting the code after it to map the like first name to the first name. What is that called?
Those are the query parameters.
Okay.
And here, I'll just do it on Zoom because Miro is not loading. All right, so here you have your funnel, and inside the funnel is a form. And so actually, let me do this.
You're right, with a darker color, that's very light.
Yeah. Oh yeah, why is it doing yellow? All right. So here we have the domain custom value. And that is a URL for this funnel, which contains that form. And the form has specific fields. It's first name, last name, email, phone. And so once the domain is mapped to this funnel, that domain goes into the URL for that custom value. And then we have another custom value, which is the trigger link custom value. And then we have, in fact, let me change this to say, see. What's going on? There we go. Here's our trigger link custom value. And then we have our actual trigger link itself. And that's where that like big query parameter lives. And then, so that's where, and the trigger link settings is where you're building the trigger link like URL structure, but you also have the trigger link key, which is what, gets pulled into, like a message template when you click on, the trigger link and it pulls in that special key. And it always looks like, the key will always be like trigger, what is it? Trigger underscore link dot and then like some random stuff. And so that trigger link key is what goes into the trigger link custom value right here. Yes. And then this is this one is where you have the domain where you put the funnel is what goes into the query parameters first, like in the very first part. And then what goes in next is everything that's right here, like all the fields that you want to fill out automatically after they go to this URL. And so this entire trigger link lives inside of this custom value. And so when the internal message goes out, like this is the value that gets called, which then goes and gets this trigger link, which then goes and gets this URL structure. And then, in this URL structure is this custom value where the actual funnel URL lives.
It's like an inception of trigger links and custom values. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I think I get why you guys are doing that though, in terms of having like implementing a trigger link key. So if you ever update the custom value, right, it essentially allows you to be scalable for the snapshot or, changing that one link, which, affects everything else.
Yeah, it's always like, you guys are basically the ones that like want to understand all this stuff. But most other people, they're like, just give me less steps. Like, I don't need to understand it all. Just the fewest amount of steps you give me, the better. And there's definitely fewer steps when you have to just populate like the custom value with the trigger link. And the same thing with like why we put, this custom value inside the trigger link URL structure, because then they don't have to go to every single trigger link and copy the funnel URL in there and stuff. And as you guys know, with onboarding engine, all the custom values are kind of populated just via an onboarding process where people just fill out a big form. And so in theory, when they get into the account, like all the custom values are filled out. The only custom values that can't be filled out from within the onboarding form are the trigger link ones, because somebody has to actually go and generate those links and then put them into those custom values, which can only be done, from within the account once the account is live. And so they can still leave the onboarding form up and go, because it always opens in a new tab, and they can go get those trigger links and then bring them over to the onboarding form. But high level actually didn't let you used to be able to put a trigger link key in a custom value. I'm not exactly sure when they pulled the trigger on allowing that, because we had tested it like 6 or 8 months ago and it didn't work. And then we tested it again, in the last couple of months, and it's working now fine. So I think that was one of those sort of like unspoken about updates that it's like, well, it works now. So great.
It's interesting.
Thank you. I'll play with it, and I'm sure I'm going to have more questions. And
Yeah, no problem.
when I've gone to like populate pictures now into anything, it's coming from my hard drive, not from my media library.
I think, are you clicking and dragging?
No. So I can just click and drag it into there. Like on the top of forms, it'll ask me where to get the picture, and I can't find the way around just to get it from, upload everything to the media library. It's always asking to come from my hard drive.
Oh, interesting.
But
I saw.
it's new that they're allowing that too. To put pictures.
Yeah, because they didn't used to allow images on the forums. And I would assume that when you put it on the forum, it's also adding it to media library, but I don't know because I haven't tested that yet.
Thank you very much.
It would make sense that you could pull it from the media library. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to. We should submit feedback on that if you
Yeah.
can't.
And it's on forums, and that's new, so I didn't know if that was why.
Mm-hmm.
Can I wind back and add to the previous scenario where you're bringing people into a funnel or onto a funnel with a form on it? If they're coming in from a Facebook ad, and in Facebook you've got a learn more or apply now or whatever. How, when they link from Facebook into your funnel, are you tracking that that's where they came from?
Well, normally,
Pixels.
yeah, there's a few different. So in high level, most people, because of just the way high level set up, most people have a form. They have a landing page set up specifically for paid traffic. Because like when somebody, well, first of all, when somebody flows into like your home page or a generic page, it's not very focused for like whatever offer you were running on paid traffic. And then the other issue is tracking. It's harder to track. I mean, you can track it like in Google Analytics and stuff like that because it'll pull all the data in. And so you can get some attribution data in high level from Google Analytics if you have analytics synced up. But it's harder to do things like tag them in high level and all that kind of stuff based on the attribution data. And so for that reason, people will, normally have like a special form set up, just to capture those leads and stuff like that. Now, if it's a Facebook form, like a Facebook lead form, that's a special trigger event and a workflow. That's a different trigger event than like a normal form. So you can if you're triggering on Facebook lead form submission, you can just tag everybody that comes in off of a lead form. And I think they have a TikTok lead form now too. So,
so if we have essentially a funnel which we're driving our own kind of database reactivation traffic to, but then we're running some ads as well, are you suggesting we clone that funnel and say, well, there's not much difference. They're both trying to achieve the exact same outcome. However, we're trying to track performance of our database reactivation work versus our Facebook advertising work. So are you saying like create two funnels that are essentially identical, and you're pointing one into one and one into the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it doesn't even have to be two separate funnels. It could just be separate funnel steps in the same funnel if you wanted to. But yeah, essentially like two different pages that look exactly the same.
Right. We're trying to, even if it's just the front page where they land, and I'm not sure how to build a funnel that has multiple front pages and then continues through every other page the same. But what we're trying to do is gauge the performance of each of those efforts in the two different channels they're placed. Messaging, everything will be the same. Close will be the same. Form will be the same at the end.
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking there must be some way of kind of like that idea of UTM where we're like, hey, come onto this funnel with this code. And then we will know whether it's a hidden field, whatever. We'll know, you've opened this form, but because you came in here with this UTM or whatever, that we know that you've come in through database reactivation or you've come in through Facebook or whatever else. That way we can mark our source as where they came in from, but have one funnel.
Well, if the source is like coming from within the high level ecosystem, you can absolutely do that because like to get anywhere, somebody has to either reply, click a link, do something like that. So everything once they're in the ecosystem, like you can, track them, tag them, however you want. It's when they're coming from outside of the ecosystem into the ecosystem that it's more complicated. And the reason why it's like always good to still, run like Google Analytics, for example, is because you really want like that attribution cookie sitting in the browser, because there's going to be like all sorts of things where it's like, okay, they saw ad number one, they didn't take action, then they like got hit with a retargeting ad, then they took action, but then when they opened the ad, they didn't actually click that link, they just went and then Googled something, and then they went to your homepage, and then they decided to call you. And so it's like tracking them through that whole like maze of like touch points is really only possible when there's a tracking cookie sitting in the browser. And right now, High Level doesn't have like a native cookie that does that type of stuff. And so you have to use, like a Google Analytics cookie or something to do that. The only thing in High Level, like we can, if there's a way that you can put whatever the source was like in that attribute on the contact object. So like every contact has, a source field that's native in High Level. And so the whole goal is to kind of like, that's like supposed to be first source that you're aware of. And so it's like whatever was all the other stuff that happened that finally got them to the High Level front door, like you have in Google Analytics. But when they finally came through the door, like which door was it? And that's where you kind of have to have like different doors set up, to measure which door they actually came in. And then the whole goal is to then put that into the contact source. So if they run through a workflow because they came on the paid ads funnel, then you put like paid ads, campaign number, whatever in the contact source, or database reactivation in the contact source or whatever it was.
Yeah, the issue, and again, it's more to do with the segmentation of paid ads that I'm interested in. They want to bring them in. Oh, we're going to run some TikTok, we're going to run some Facebook, we're going to run some Instagram, right? And then you're like, if you only brought them in to a single funnel with paid ads, how do you know what's worked and what hasn't? And if you end up with 4 identical funnels because you have to, that's the way that you have to go, database reactivation on these 3 social paid ads channels, then that's what's kind of confusing me right now in terms of how to simplify that. And particularly when they want to go,
Isn't that when you would use the UTM with the first attribution and all of those? Zach?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking as an extension of your original question. Is that how I would actually, tag my incoming users somehow with an attribution of the way they came into the funnel?
So Zach, that would be on the actual form that they're filling out. Is that right?
Yeah. So one way that you could probably do it is to have like a multi-select field on the form with various source options. So like
where did you see this ad? How did you? I see a lot of that.
Right? And if you didn't want to like actually ask them that question because you already knew the answer to it based on what link they clicked, then then when like so in your URL structure, it would be like the URL of your funnel where the form lives. And then you would just use that same structure where you have to do, the question mark, and then you have to reference what High Level form field you're trying to talk to. And then instead of a system field like contact underscore like first name or whatever, you would do contact dot the custom field and so the option of the custom field.
And you run that as a hidden field, so it's kind of being filled out automatically as part of the form, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could hide the field. At least you have been able to. I think that's still working. I'm just questioning because High Level's been making some moves with hidden fields on funnels and stuff.
Couldn't we just put the first attribution, like you were saying? I kind of got lost in that when I was looking for this answer, so it's kind of neat that you're bringing it up now. But there's an actual first attribution. Can we put that in the chain on the top after the question mark, the ampersand, first name, whatever, and then first attribution? And wouldn't that bring in where they came from?
You could use that contact source system field and just populate it with free text. That's also an option. Yeah. And the only thing that just like keep in mind is the way high level ties that information, like high level is going to either create a contact or update a contact. And the way they know how to do that is by the primary key of the contact. And the primary key is either the email or the phone number. So if the contact's putting in, email on that form, and then you're good to go. It has something to associate it with, but this whole thing only works if email or phone is used on the form, just as a note.
I have a quick question about how to do something on a membership site. It's kind of a burning desire. I have to jump off the call.
Sure.
If I want to pause an account, can I? And if I, like, for example, I have a customer that is like, I just knew she was going to quit because she joined and then she was not using the system. And so I basically salvaged her and said, hey, listen, I saw you weren't using the system. Can I help you? Let me get you doing this and get you doing that. And I'll give you, she's been signed up for 3 months. And I said, I'll give you a couple of months for free. Can I pause it and still give her access to the account? Or is there a workaround to doing that if not?
You want to pause the membership only, or you want to pause the entire SaaS account?
No, I want to pause her
You want to keep
payments.
it unpaused, but you don't want to charge her.
Exactly.
Okay, so you want to give her access to the software, but not charge her, right?
Give her
Yeah,
2-3
just give her-
months.
Just give her
you do
2
that in
months for free.
Stripe.
Mhm.
You can adjust their billing in Stripe directly. And yeah, you would just pull up her customer profile in Stripe and then adjust the billing right in there. And you can basically set it to 0 for however long you want, for like 2 months, I guess. And then go back in there and then change it to whatever monthly payment you want.
Okay. Okay, I'll look into that. Yeah. And that won't mess up the communication with Go High Level and Stripe.
Yeah, just don't pause her account.
Yeah, because
Right,
yeah, that was what I was getting at. Is like, because I was thinking, man, if I pause it, it's literally going to stop her from being able to access it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You might be able to, on that same front, one thing, another idea on the Stripe side would be to like do a trial in Stripe. Like you can add a trial number of days for them, so that also might work. I don't know. Yeah, there's not a native high level way to do that though. You can do that. I mean, there's not a native way to do that once you've converted somebody's account into SaaS. But what you can also do is, they didn't used to let you do this, but I saw on there the other day that I could do it. Although I haven't tested it yet, you'd probably want to test it, but it appears as though you can pull someone off SaaS mode once they're on SaaS mode. And so you could disable SaaS mode, because if SaaS mode's disabled, the account will just be live. You can also have SaaS mode disabled and have rebilling still enabled. Or sorry, you can enable, this is a little bit of a workaround, but you would want to disable SaaS mode, then you'd want to re-enable SaaS mode, but not associate it with a plan. And so if SaaS mode is enabled, and then you can have rebilling turned on. And if you don't assign them to a plan, then there just will be no monthly charge, but rebilling will still continue. But once they've been associated with a plan, I don't know if you can pull them off the plan until you disable SaaS. That's the variable for me. You might be able to. I don't know.
I wonder if it would erase their credit card information.
Well, it won't erase in high level. It won't erase any credit card information because high level. I don't think, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think high level deletes any data on Stripe. I think it just leaves it there.
But they're not using SaaS. They're just a company using it as a basic, right, Nick?
Right. They're
They're not using the SaaS part of it. They're just an account in your
right? Can you actually do that? Can I have a company selling SaaS under me? Is that even a thing?
No, that you would essentially have them sign up as an affiliate and have their own account.
Right. That's what I would think, right? But
Yeah.
could they actually have their own SaaS account? Is that
No.
I think it's technically against high levels terms and conditions to have like multi-layer like that right now, at least. But there is a big use case for, not having people on SaaS plans, but still wanting enabled. I mean, I have like, I don't even know how many accounts in my SaaS that are, friends and family type situations. And I told them like, you don't have to pay for it monthly, but you do have to pay for all the texts you send out. And so,
but how do you do that? That's a good question because I ran into that too. So how do you do that where it's like, okay, well, if it's automatically billing your credit card, how do you know what they're using?
well, that's what I'm saying. If you enable SaaS mode manually, so you create a sub account. When you first create a sub account, it's not on SaaS if you manually create it.
Right.
So then you have to enable SaaS on it. And then they're still not associated with a plan though. So they're not going to be charged monthly until you pick what SaaS plan you want them to be on. So if you enable SaaS mode, but you don't put them on a plan, it'll still let you turn on rebilling and they'll still have to go in there and put in their credit card info and all that. It's just not going to be any monthly charge for them. They're just going to get rebilled, whenever they use the text and email and premium workflow triggers and all that stuff.
Interesting. I did not know
that's
that.
Good. That's a good one. Okay, so automatically make them so they then turn on SaaS mode, but don't associate it with the plan. When you turn on the SaaS mode, you have to put the credit card in automatically.
Yeah. So the downside to doing it that way is like, when you use SaaS configurator, you can send them to like a form. They put in their payment info. It automatically stands at the sub account. So it's like really easy. If you do it this way, it's like more manual labor for you because it's like, I got to manually create the sub account. Then I have to manually turn on SaaS mode. Then I have to manually enable rebilling. Then I have to instruct them to go in and put their credit card information in. And so it's only something that I normally do for people that I love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, same. Yeah, I understand. Okay, guys, I have to go. I want to stay, but I've got an appointment. So,
Cool.
bye. Thank you.
Cool, man.
Zach.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Zach, I just had a couple of questions with like quick ones in terms of like SaaS in general.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so as of right now, there's no way to limit users on the different SaaS plans, right? Like up to 3 users only, for example. You know how a lot of SaaS companies do that.
Yeah. I don't believe so. I'm trying to think if there's any way that you could. Not right now,
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so, but I was just confirming. Okay, and then the other thing with the SaaS configurator, so obviously right now you only have 3 options, right? Or 3 different plans. I know they're gonna kind of add more, I guess, in the future with different variations you can do. But in terms of right now, if you, for example, want to have 3 plans, but you don't want to use all the features, let's say in your highest tier plan, because you know how you essentially like move the slider over for the different features. Is there any way on that 3rd highest plan to still like remove features, or do they have to all be included at that 3rd highest tier plan? Does that make sense?
There's with all 3 of the plans, there is like a base level of features, that they require, and then they have it set up right now to where it's like anything that you have in 1 has to be in 2, and anything that's in 2 has to be in 3.
Right.
And so those 3 are sort of linear, I guess, in that way. Like you can't have tier 3 have like a completely different configuration. It's kind of like a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So technically you could still have 3 having not all the features, but that wouldn't work if like you were trying to give those features in 2, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So like for me specifically, let's say like for memberships, like let's say I don't want them in any of the plans. Is that possible?
Yeah, you should be able to have membership disabled across all three plans.
Right in the configurator though, like rather than manually going into that account and then disabling it.
I think so. Let me check though.
Okay, because that was one thing I was just curious because it's not like I can drag that like off to the side from those three plans, right? So I was a bit confused if that was possible.
Maybe they have that one. I actually haven't been into the SaaS configurator in a minute, so let me look here. Let's see. Checking. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it looks like you have to include features in there on the third tier. But I guess the workaround for that is manually going in and disabling it for that sub account.
Yeah, that does seem a little. Oh wait. Yeah, it looks like yeah, because I mean you can have all the features in tier 1, and then tier 2 and tier 3 are then just everything in first tier, everything in second tier. Or you can move them across so that so I guess you would have to move you'd have to move you'd have to use one of the other tiers in the way that you're wanting to use tier 3, where like tier 1 is the restricted one that doesn't have memberships, for example. Essentially, well, yeah.
You want to turn off memberships in all of them.
Essentially, yeah, like for example, if you want, because you could technically use two tiers, right? And let's say you only have like if you only have two tiers, you could just use the features that you don't want in that third tier as like a placeholder to remove them, right? But if you
Exactly.
actually want to increase, or if you want to have three tiers, and let's say you want in that third tier to enable everything except memberships and a few other features, there's no way to actually move those features completely out of those three tiers. So you have to include everything in there.
Yep. And that
So
is what I'm seeing also. Yeah,
yeah,
you'd have to use 3 as like your dumping grounds basically,
yeah,
and not go with
exactly.
anyone.
That's right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there's anything or if I was missing anything on that. But okay, cool. And then just a couple of questions on like texting and calling stuff. In terms of like the caller ID for a business name, how exactly do you get that updated once you get a phone number and high level and all that?
So there is and I haven't actually went through this process yet, but I'll show it to you either way. Let me switch over here.
I would assume it'd have to be somewhere in like the trust
In the,
center.
yeah, it's in the trust center. So if you go to your settings on your sub account, and then you go to phone numbers, and then you go to the trust center, it is this one right here. And I believe that you have to have the A2P, verified and all that kind of stuff before that button will enable trust calling.
Interesting. So I actually have that approved along with A2P for a sub account. And for some reason, like whoever previously had the phone number, like the person's name was like Julie or something, and it still shows up for some reason when they're making calls from that number. So yeah, I'm interested how it, or like when it actually gets updated, if that is exactly where you do that.
I think it's actually, I think I was wrong. I think it's this one because it says increase the answer rate of your calls by displaying up to 15 characters on your customer's phone.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that it's that one, but I do know, like you can say it says coming soon.
Right.
I do know that this one's not available yet. High level hasn't made it available yet. So that's
Okay.
probably in that case, I don't remember what this one is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's like not very descriptive at all. So um
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And then with regards to A2P specifically, if a business has multiple phone numbers, how exactly does that work with A2P? Like, do you register every single number? Although, like, it looks like you can only do one registration per business.
It registers the whole account.
Yeah, you can do there is a limitation, I think, but I forget how many numbers it is per EIN. But it is multiple numbers, and they do it on like Heidi said, on a location basis. So the only time that there's the restriction of one is if you're doing a sole proprietorship, not an EIN.
Got it. So even if you start off, let's say, with one phone number and you add more to the account, it'll just be good. It'll be.
Yeah, they don't push you through the registration process again or anything. From my understanding. I still need to get my account registered, and so, or my agency account. Obviously, Extendly's good to go, but my agency is, and I've been waiting, so I need to do that, and I'll let you know. I'll have multiple phone numbers. I'll be wanting to register, so I'll come back to you.
For sure. Yeah,
I'm
the
back.
31st is the last day, right? That anything
Yeah.
will get allowed. Yeah.
So if you're in two different sub accounts, sorry, I'm in my car now. if you're in two different sub accounts, you can register the number that'll run you back through the ringer. I think you have to register from a separate sub account if you're in a separate sub account, right? But
Well,
same company.
separate
But
sub
same
account is
company.
a different location as far as Twilio is concerned. So like every different sub account has to go through the registration process, which is kind of a pain. So I think I haven't heard of anybody yet that's tried to register the same location on two different sub accounts. But I would imagine that would probably not pass. So
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I have to register. I have one sub account approved, and I have to register another sub account, but it's the same EIN number. It's the same entity. And
is
then
it
there's
a
a third
different physical location? Like different?
Well, physical location. Well, it's the same 30. Yeah, it's the same physical location as far as the address goes on the EIN documentation. Same address. And then I'm going to be doing it a third time under AWS, which is the Amazon network. So I haven't registered there yet, but I was planning on registering in those two. I'm actually in the process of doing that, just a different website. So I'm trying to get all that set up now, and I haven't actually gone through that process, but now you got me thinking.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because if you're working with like a franchise, right, and you have whatever multiple locations and you set up different sub accounts, but it's the same business technically, or I guess same EIN, even if
Well,
it's
it
a
would have to have
chain.
everything the same in the EIN. So I
wonder how that would work.
I think you've already registered that EIN as long as everything's exactly the same number and everything. I can't imagine it matters that you have a different sub account because they're registering the account.
Well, maybe what you're registering, maybe you're not registering the EIN. Maybe what you're registering is the phone number. I don't know.
No, it's definitely the account.
Well, I was gonna say you might check to see I'm actually curious how this goes for you. But you
Mhm.
might check to see if like on AWS if you can if there's some way to like request um the thing is like your EIN is technically already registered with the, sort of like private regulatory body that they have in charge of this whole thing. And so
Mhm.
if there's a way to pull the registration down into your AWS account, you might not even need to register again. It's just a different platform, but they're all talking to the same people. And so it's a little bit
Right.
of a clunky process right now because every platform it seems like is maybe they don't have a way to, check registration before showing you on your account that you need to register. I don't know if there's like
Right.
an API endpoint for that yet or something. So
Well,
it might
they
be
don't
a
even know.
manual
Like
process with support.
yeah, they don't even know because like we've reached out to them on support, and yeah, they're just kind of they've got a little process that they run, but their support people know nothing about the HP, and so I'm just going through the process right now, and I got stuck on it because it's a different site, it's a different website, and I want it to be all 100% up and running before I finish that registration process, so they don't kick it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, keep me posted, man, on what happens with that. I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
I'm putting in there the info page for the and I'll send it to you, Nick, some other stuff.
Yeah, I'll let y'all know for sure.
I think like on the AWS side, because I saw you just put a Twilio link in there.
Hmm.
Because Twilio, so Twilio has to register their customers um, because of the carrier restrictions being passed down. But like there's other high level, not high level like as in high level,
Hmm.
as we all know, but there's other like top level providers that are sitting in the same position as Twilio. So like AWS would be one of them where AWS is not using like a Twilio mainframe to send out messages. I don't think. I think they have their own, they have
Oh
all
yeah.
their like phone routing and all that kind of stuff, just like Twilio, but they're going to be required to register just like Twilio is being required to register. So, but their whole process might be different than Twilio's process. But at the end of the day, they have to deliver the same information to the the regulation body. So I forget what the name of that company is, but
Speaking on something related to that, so in terms of like having a toll-free number registration versus A2P,
Hmm.
are they the same or similar? Because in the trust center, when you look in there, when you have like it's the toll-free registration number registration looks pretty similar to how A2P is. So I'm just kind of curious on like, do you need to do both or how exactly does that work?
On AWS, whenever I am trying to get the 10 uh, uh, what's it, DPC, the digital, what is it, 10 what, whatever it
uh,
is, the
Is it
DLC DLC, but I forget what that
DLC, long
stands
code,
for.
think
long
digit
code,
long
digital
code?
NDLC.
Oh
digital
yeah,
long code, yeah. So the DLC, so the 10, so yeah, on AWS, whenever you're registering the 10 DLC, it's like it doesn't even give you an option to choose a number until you first go in and you register the campaign, and then like you have to do it and go high level. But in with the 1-800 number, it's like it automatically allows you to do text and everything. We're already testing the text portal because we're doing is we're bringing in properties, real estate properties, and we're shooting them out through text and emails. And so the 1-800 number is
They're not requiring it now for the 1-800. That's kind of the workaround, but they will shortly. So they
October
do still have a
31st.
registration process, but it's not a very encompassing one, but it's going to be around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, but so do
uh,
you need both then? Because
No,
like the toll free is just
no,
to be able to use the 1-800 number,
a
right?
toll-free number. Yeah.
Um,
And
and then that's
you don't have to
separate
do
than
10
A2P.
DLC for that.
you don't have to register it the same way.
No.
Like the 10 DLC registration, campaign registration.
Is not for 800
is
or toll free.
specifically, yeah, specifically for 10 digit. 10 digit long code. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes any.
Yeah, so basically, if you have an
high level or
800
not.
number, then you only need to do the toll-free number registration and not A2P.
Right. Temporarily, but they're going to catch up quickly. I mean, I think it's a temporary workaround if you can't get the other one done, but they're going to at some point require
Okay.
that.
Gotcha,
But not
gotcha,
now.
gotcha. Yeah, because interesting. Like when I'm looking at it, yeah, it basically asks the same thing for like the opt-out message and like proof of it. And I was like, okay, this is basically A2P, but on the toll-free number side.
Yeah, and they might not be as strict with it.
Man, this stuff is kind of confusing. Like it's crazy.
Oh, it's called the campaign registry. That's what it is. The campaignregistry.com. That's who is doing all this or leading all this. Is that what do you call it?
Pushed by the FDIC, I think, or whatever. That's whatever the federal company is to prevent spam, so much spam and fraud, or slow it down at least.
Yeah. Yeah, put some roadblocks in their way.
Thank you, Zach. This was a great session. I knew you knew these answers. I'll probably be reaching out to you because I may be missing something still, but I'll play around with it.
Okay.
Wait, Zach, are you retiring or like, because on the schedule I'm looking at, it looks like you're not scheduled for after next week.
I don't know. What do they have on the schedule right now? Because there's a lot of like moving pieces going on in the background, so I haven't even looked at the schedule.
Oh, right now it looks like next week is like your last week that you're scheduled on at the same time for this call, so 1 p.m.
But you're going to be here anyways, right?
I'll just keep showing up until there's another plan. So, yeah, if for some reason they do something else on Mondays, I'll let you guys know. But hopefully we have a little bit more time together. So even if they do something else on Mondays, at some point or another, we'll probably still try to do some kind of town hall, where, and I'll lead that. Like, I don't know if we'll do like once a month or bi-weekly or something like that for just the marketplace of snapshots, and probably do a lot of Q&A just like this and all that. So
I
you
thought
guys
the only
won't
reason
be able to get rid of me.
I thought the only reason that they stopped that people stopped is if their contract runs out, and doesn't sound like your contract is running out. So maybe, ask them. Yeah,
there is. Some of the other people that we've had training and stuff have been on contract, which was how I started also with Beyond. Was I just told them I was gonna, be around for a few months and help them do this, and then ended up joining the Extendly team formally. So the only reason I would bounce out of this is if they, if the marketing team had another plan for how they wanted to reallocate Mondays, and then I would yield to them, so, but
well, I don't think that's the case, because they still have Wednesdays left for them to fill. So that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think most likely it's just that they haven't got around to scheduling it yet. That's kind of, you guys have probably been seeing the announcements. Extendly's been acquiring like this and that and all kinds of stuff. And so things have been getting pretty busy on the marketing side. So that might just be what's going on. We're showing up. Cool. I love it. Well, guys, I'll let you go for today. I'm going to get back to getting some more snapshots ready for all you guys. So, but I'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much.
No problem. See you guys.
Want to learn Go High Level in a structured format? Check out the gohighlevel.com by Extendly. We guarantee to save you 6 months of wasted subscription costs for High Level. Just visit the gohighlevel.com.